Joseph Kotrie-Monson joins me, criminal defence lawyer at Mary Monson Solicitors on Fleet Street, who specialise in sexual offences. Good afternoon to you, Joseph.
Good afternoon, Sheila.
Is this case, appalling as it is it surprising to you?
I think sadly the answer is no. The question really is, which one of the three potential likely flaws in our system or room for abuse does this fall into? Which category does it fall into? We've talked about police resources, and with respect, I think in this particular case, I think that may well be the least likely. Of course, it's the case that police have to be aware of these things, but the idea that police resources would stop somebody looking at evidence and considering evidence that was so obviously important when it's a relationship that's alleged between the two people, I honestly think that's fanciful, and that those resources can be found, and they always must be found. In fact, in this case, we've got it in the public domain that the disclosure officer, crucially an employee of the police, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute under the third category, but the disclosure officer said the reason that he didn't think it was disclosable was because it was a personal matter between the two individuals. Well, when somebody is alleging rape in a relationship, or the other side is saying we were in a relationship, how on earth can the fact that something is personal get in the way of relevance?
Yeah. I mean, the personal is inherent to that case, isn't it?
Precisely, and the question that must be raised at that point, and it's an unpopular one to say, but it's a question that must have been crossing the minds of certain people, and it's without saying that this is the reason. It's something that absolutely should be explored. Is it actually a question of monumental bad judgment and incompetence, or is that just a way of protecting somebody from a much more seedy and worrying allegation? Because to be so naive as to imagine there isn't such a thing as police corruption, and I'm not suggesting that's taken place here, but the idea that that is being ruled out at this stage and masked over with the talk of extreme incompetence, where the stakes are so bad. And you're right, this boy nearly lost his whole life. Shame on him, shame on his family, even when he comes out of prison, if he survives it. And the idea that we should just be saying, well, okay, this is a question of resources on the one hand, or I suppose incompetence on the other. I think that must be wrong.
Hang on. So just to be clear, you're saying there needs to be a question that asks whether it was deliberate?
I think there must be a question, and I think people will demand it. This young man and his family will certainly demand it. Sheila, you can bet your bottom dollar on. But I want to add this. We have a fundamentally flawed attitude to the way in which evidence like this is gathered and disclosed to the defence. You're right to say his defence weren't in a position to assist him. The reason for that is they didn't know about it, and no independent person ever considered this evidence, and the system doesn't allow for it. The way in which our system works with disclosure of evidence to the defence is that it is a police disclosure officer, technically unconnected with the investigation, but nevertheless on the other side of our adversarial justice system, who makes these decisions. How on earth can that be right? Would the prosecution or the police accept if the evidence of an investigation, the defence decided what access they had to it or what access the court had to it? Of course not.
Who should decide? A separate body?
It should be a neutral and independent person, but of course the reason that we don't have something like that is money. But it's always funny how that in issues over resources such as these, it's the defence and justice to the defendant which misses out, rather than justice to the prosecution.
Do you think it's inevitable, just finally, Joseph, is it inevitable that there are other Liam Allens experiencing a potential miscarriage?
I've met them. The only difference is usually you get a police officer who has the integrity and the sense and the diligence that during the bail period, often when your client's been on bail for 6, 9, 12 months, finally has the resources to get around to finding these texts, discloses them, and the case is or without even needing to disclose them, drops the case. These happen. The idea that the idea that no allegation is a false allegation and that people don't make false allegations in the context of relationships betrays a fundamental naivety about human relations. Of course false allegations exist. They get uncovered with text messages. People spend months on bail. Sometimes the cases go to court. Does it get this far, Sheila? Is that what you're asking before?
Yeah, I just wonder how many Liam Allens there are.
well, you know what, I wouldn't know about it because our system doesn't allow for policing of it, and that is seriously wrong.
OK, Joseph, thank you. Joseph Kotrie-Monson, criminal defence lawyer at Mary Monson Solicitors.